Last night I went to go see Kalki 2898 AD, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what did you think about Kalki 2898 AD? Now, I went into this movie very excited because it's a big, gigantic sci-fi epic, chosen ones, prophecy, post-apocalyptic, a bunch of stuff that I love, but I've never seen an Indian film tackle this genre territory before. Likewise, I'd heard that it was the most expensive Indian film ever made. So just a bunch of things like that made me very curious to kind of check it out and see what it would look like. Did the movie pay off for me? Let's get started talking about the good. And right off the bat, the thing that I thoroughly enjoyed about this film was exactly kind of why I was excited to see the film. Seeing this big, epic, post-apocalyptic film that is this hero's journey filled with rich mythology and lore from a different cultural perspective. Now, I've seen a lot of movies like this out of Hollywood. I've read a lot of books like this out of Hollywood, where they're coming from a more Judeo-Christian background. And like the works of Joseph Campbell, he wrote a book called Hero with a Thousand Faces that talks about how there's just these certain archetypes that have appeared all across human history, across all cultures, religion, belief systems, that we all connect with these same types of stories. And Hollywood has captured that in a number of different films, but it, once again, is from that Judeo-Christian vein. And then you watch this film, and there's so much in common with so many of these epics that have come out of Hollywood, but coming from a Hindu perspective and incorporating Hindu mythology and beliefs into the story. And that was just fascinating to me and interesting to me, where I just kind of wanted to learn more about the lore, more about the background of everything that was established at the beginning of the film, how it was paying off at the end, and how it just gives everything a different flavor and vibe from what Hollywood produces, but also delivering the same experience of these fulfilled prophecies, discovering someone's true identity, these massive battles, rebellions against tyrannical governments and things like that are just across all society. All humans connect with these stories. And so seeing this version of it, I just thoroughly enjoyed that and kind of wanted to dive more into the world. Kind of speaking of that world building, right out of the gate, it establishes this very vast, broken earth. It's a lot of world building done right, where just little lines of dialogue help you understand how people function in this world, what currency they have to use to just get water and survive, what the people in power are doing versus what the poor and everyone else are doing, what average people are attempting to accomplish in this world, and just incorporating it with all of these different sci-fi elements, but also things that feel kind of ancient and broken because the world has collapsed, and all of it at the same time, where you just kind of want to explore the space. And the movie across its runtime does that, where sometimes we're in these vast deserts, other times we're in kind of the slums in the main city where the common folk are at, and then we explore up top in the complex and what the rich people are doing, and then we head off to see what the resistance, rebellion are doing in this other area. And so it just kind of creates a world that you want to explore. And a film like that's what you want. In particular, when it is this sci-fi epic creating this big world with this rich lore and mythology that you want to explore it, all of that is what the movie's supposed to do. For me, the standout character and performance was for Ashwathama, where you have this character that has existed alive, immortal for 6,000 years, just dealing with the regrets of the past, knowing this purpose will come eventually, and seeing the dedication in each moment to that purpose. And when reflecting on the past and everything, the hurt, the pain, just emoting on the face. And even I was kind of doing research on all of it, that the actor was filming this at 80 years old is just pretty wild for just how physical of a performance it was and what that would have demanded. That's cool. And also just whenever he's on screen, just has this commanding presence that your eyes are just fixed on him. Now, some of that, the character's 8 feet tall, but a lot of that is also just, it's a character that just immediately commands your attention. And so much of that is also just within the performance from the actor. The other standout for me was Deepika Padukone, who I'm a little bit more familiar with because I saw her in Jawan as well as Pathan last year. But she has a character that doesn't have a ton to work with because her existence is very small. She lives in a lab, was raised in a lab. And so all of her emoting has to essentially come from, all of her performance has to come from essentially her expressions, the pain that she feels and the fear that she feels and the idea that she might lose this child, that's the only thing that she has. And it's all kind of not through a ton of dialogue or a rich backstory that can be explored because her life is so straightforward and simple. It's all done through the performance and her making you care and want to learn more about her. As she learns about herself and the world that she's in. Then you have Prabhas, who gets to bring the fun to the movie, where it has a lot of very heavy ideas, in particular with what's going on with the women in the film. And so he's kind of one that brings the fun, the levity, the humor into it, while also getting to just destroy a bunch of guys in the fight scenes. The actor, I saw him in Solar last year. I believe that's the only film that I've seen him in. And just, he's able to pull off the action. He's able to deliver the one-liners, the little smirks right before a fight breaks out. You buy into it. So just a lot of fun. Speaking of those fights, this is a big, gigantic sci-fi action epic, and you get a variety of different types of action sequences in here. Of course, you have your fight scenes with guys throwing down, but even those kind of have an interesting spin to them because it does have that sci-fi element into it where there's little tech happening in some of the fight scenes that just makes it a little bit more interesting. You have at the end this massive shootouts taking place with armies battling each other. You have a mech suit versus this immortal god-like character at one point in time. So you get a variety of action, all of it a lot of fun, all of it kind of exaggerated in the sense that you want from a film like this. And the final big thing to talk about here is there's just a lot of cool cinematography in the film. Just one thing I was like even paying attention to, the first fight scene with our main bounty hunter, Prabhas, his character, even the way that like the sun is setting behind them, so it's largely in silhouette. And I was just trying to even think of like how they would even shoot something like that to have the light shining through and have the reflection on the camera and the way that it lights the characters, that it would be extremely difficult to practically film with the sun like that. So I didn't even know how they did it. So I found that interesting. I thought the trailers, some of the shots looked a little bit off at times in them, but then watching the film, what they were able to do with the budget that they had, where it's massive scale and size of just cool lit sequences, in particular the ones where they used kind of the silhouetting, the sun in interesting ways, just looked very cool. And even as they're showing the different environments, the color scheme and grading when we're in a desert versus when we're in the rich complex with all of its bright, vivid colors versus the earth tones of the desert. Then we get to the Rebellion's area, and it has its own lighting to it. So just providing a variety of environments, all of them looking very cool. So there's quite a bit in here that I enjoyed, and it's a movie that made me want to keep exploring this world. The longer it went on, the more I got invested and bought into what was taking place. But I also did have quite a few problems with it, so let's move on to the bad. And honestly, this was a movie that was pretty frustrating for me because there were all of these things that I really enjoyed about the film that delivered what I wanted from it when I first heard about it. A number of you DM'd me about the film, and I went, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds like something I would enjoy. The trailers kind of made me excited to check it out, and all of the things I wanted, I did get from the film, but I felt it took too long to get going. So the back half really won me over. The first half I thought was very uneven, and pretty quickly it was clear where the film was headed and what was going to happen with them kind of what they were doing with the women, the introduction to this bounty hunter, and the pieces were on the table. It's like, okay, I see where this is going. And then it just took a very long time for the plot to actually kick in, to where it felt like what happens at the intermission point with the escape, I think that should happen like 45 minutes earlier in the film and expand on the back half, not so much on the first half of, there's just a lot in particular with the bounty hunter where it just felt like we're just seeing too much of the same stuff. Like, he's the best, but man, he's lazy. He's the best. He likes to sleep. He's the best, but he spends all of his credits on silly things like an egg. And just felt repetitious. And I was like, all right, let's get going. Let's start the plot moving here. And just even individual scenes in the first half just felt like they went on a little bit too long. And I just wish they'd changed that up, of shift it. That's the first third of the film, and then have the back half really explore the world, the chase, the big epic battle at the end, and give more time to the back end. Also, just in general, Indian films tend to have a lot more kind of tonal changes than Hollywood films, where you'll have really dark subject matter pretty close to a like very lighthearted comedy bits. This movie, it that frustrated me, or like felt more off to me, because we're literally killing pregnant women and babies, and then like a minute later we're making jokes about a character like sleeping in a fight. And there's just such a gigantic shift between like such dark material. We're treating women as property, and then we're joking. And both of those things kind of tie back to what I said earlier, where as the movie went along, I liked it more and more. It took me a while to kind of get situated with the film, and for me to feel like the film had its footing. It was clear what it was trying to do, and it was clear where and all that kind of ties back to what I said at the beginning about how, all that ties back to what I said just a little bit ago about I felt the movie got better as it went along. In the back half, I felt like it found its footing better. The tone was more balanced. The plot had forward motion and momentum. I could tell where it was going. And so the best parts of it stood out. Whereas in the first half of the movie, I just felt it was meandering and didn't get to the point quick enough. And there was just a lot of sequences I was like, I don't need this much time in this. I don't need so much of this. And that was really off-put, like really dark to see women being dropped into a furnace, and where there's a lot of that. And even with like Prabhas's character, the bounty hunter, and how they pay off the journey that he's on, the twists, turns, and reveals that happen with him, it felt so kind of late in the film that the character was frustrating during too much of the runtime. And so I just feel like they could have evened some of that out a little bit more to have the story flow better, kick into motion a little bit sooner, and allow us to have a more satisfying payoff with some of these arcs where we could spend more time with the answers and the satisfying part than the very long build-up and showing them in where they start in the story. Real quick, before I give you my final thoughts, be sure to join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what did you think about Kalki 2898 AD? Also, I've done a number of other Indian reviews and even a few rankings of a couple different franchises. You can check those out in this playlist right over here. There's a movie actually coming out this next week called Kill. I saw it at a film festival last year, and so I shared my thoughts in a video. You can, once again, check that out in this playlist, and there's a time marker so you can skip ahead to that specific review. Overall, by the end, I did enjoy the film, and I got what I wanted out of the film, but the overall film wasn't as good as I was hoping because it just took a little bit too long to get going, meandered a little bit too much in the first half of the film before having some really nice payoff at the end. But because it does do a great job with the world building, and I did enjoy seeing kind of this different perspective on a hero's journey in a sci-fi post-apocalyptic epic, I'm very interested to see the next part of it, and hopefully they can even out the storytelling a little bit more in the second one. Overall, it's a B-. It's a 7 out of 10 on the entertainment scale, and you can probably wait to stream this movie if you're not in a big rush to see it, but also it is a big sci-fi epic, so it looks great on the big screen, so if you're interested, maybe you should go see it in the theater. You can check out my other Indian reviews and rankings right over there in that playlist. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV to us.